one of our previous conversations was about getting results. And so part of getting results, I believe, is taking action. And so some of the actions I've taken were again to really put out the back porch website is live, is done. Got the Twitter feed up, got the Instagram feed up, got the Facebook feed up.
Oh, you giving the game. You giving the game. I want to know how you doing, man. How you doing, man? What do you eat for breakfast? You know, you sleeping okay?
Welcome to Platinum Conversations in the Platinum Cafe. Today, we wish to engage you on a journey of enlightenment and hopefully growth that will propel you into higher levels of attainment in the thing that's meaningful to you in your life. Let's go. I was having breakfast with a couple of my accountability partners this morning who were over the top in their affirmation of the journey that I'm on, because I was able to share with them a little bit more in depth about the journey that I'm on, going back to a vision I had of myself as a young child, probably 7 or 8 years old, if not younger. But I was an orator standing before thousands of people.
Let's go.
And teaching and instructing, doing whatever it is that I'm doing. But I'm the headliner in this event. And I'm looking out over this crowd of just endless people. And so while I have spoken to hundreds, I have not yet spoken to thousands in one arena at one time.
Okay.
And that's where I see myself going. And these are some of the tools, the things that I'm using now to help prepare the way for that. And one of the things that they really affirmed for me in terms of that journey is that while I've written books, I have not yet written my story. And my story will set the stage for that next level of growth, because I have to not only set the tone but not give another person an opportunity to frame my lived experiences, frame them myself, get out ahead of the story that you're about to tell about yourself.
That's very true.
And so that's like, man, okay, so I received that. And that was just this morning to help frame that.
Do you have that written down?
I have it written in my spirit to do it, because I've done certain components.
I mean the speaking in front of thousands of people.
No, I do not.
You write the vision, make it
Make
plain.
the vision. All right.
You know what they say.
Yes. No
I
doubt.
don't know if that's Ezekiel or somewhere in the Bible it says write the vision and make it plain. Maybe it's Nehemiah. I don't know, but we got to write it down. Matter of fact, I was listening to somebody. I listened to a few podcasts, and that's what I was doing last week. Is that writing down, as we were working on the affirmations too. I was writing down things, that are like visions for me. So I have 2 lists of things that I wrote down, and I just wrote it like 20 times. And I put it in my wallet because they mostly have to do with money. About I will pay off my mortgage by 2024. I will buy an investment property cash. These are just goals. I don't know when they're going to happen, but if I keep them at the forefront of my mind, I give my subconscious mind something to chew on. Eventually, it's going to spit out a result. So I think there's some credence to that, writing it down. But that's so good to hear that you had that vision, because vision is, vision is key.
Yes, no doubt. And I think what vision is sight into the future. That's what sight into the future. And so I was able to see my future as a child, not knowing what path it would take me to get there. But now I see it a lot more clearly than I ever have in my life.
Man, and you closer than ever.
I'm closer than ever. But there are steps that I must take in order to bring that vision closer to me. Because one of the things I know is that there's a scripture that states, God says, if you come to me, I will come to you. And so we find that the closer we get to our vision, the closer our vision gets to us. And so we're actually kind of converging.
Moving in concert.
Exactly. To a certain destiny. And so I'm ready for that, and I'm gearing up for what that looks like.
That's exciting. It
is.
I'm glad that I'm here with you.
So you're right. Yeah.
I'm glad that I'm here with you. I want to help you accomplish that. I want to see it. I want to see it. So yeah, let's talk about the event. Tuesday night. You said a little bit about it.
Yeah.
30. So for just some backstory on like how did you get called up to go to the event, and
Right.
where was it at, and who was there, so on and so forth,
Okay, well, it started actually through some associations that I have with individuals who are formally justice involved, and again, I'll use the term justice involved because the vocabulary and the terminology is changing from formally incarcerated to being justice involved, or what have you, being connected to the criminal justice system in one fashion or another.
That's important for the narrative too.
Exactly.
It's not like dehumanizing.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And so being justice involved. And so this brother Omari Amili and I had a conversation.
Omari was there?
Omari, he was on the panel. He was one of the primary organizers. And that brother and I have been talking and been involved with different things. He's actually adjuncting at TCC along with me as well.
I met Omari. He came and interviewed for a job.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
He came and interviewed, and we were sitting and just chatting, and he told me about his book he had written.
Yes.
And he was working on another one. So, yeah.
Yeah. And he's been doing all of that or what have you. So we've been talking, hey, what ways by which we can collaborate and make things happen. And so we talked about this opportunity about it over almost a year ago. And I was thinking about it in terms of other people that I was assisting to write their books. And he called up and said, hey, Robert, it's finally coming through. We're going to be meeting. The Pierce County Library System has given us an opportunity to create a speaker series on From Prison to Published. And that was the title of the series, From Prison to Published. And it's not one of those things where you get to go in there and do it for free. This is not a charity thing or what have you. They compensate you for being present. They purchase a certain number of books from you and give you the opportunity to sell your books to attendees as well. And so it can be a very fruitful thing. And so what the thing is that we're trying to do is to go to the Thurston County Library System, the King County Library System, and to get our books into all of these library systems around the state and probably around the country, and set up these types of engagements where we're able to engage with the community about the journeys that we've been on.
So which book did you make available?
I made both books available, No Time Like the Present and When Leadership Matters.
Nice. Nice.
Yes.
So they're going to have another event?
They will have another event, but we're waiting to hear from the library director to see, okay, what that's going to look like and what time frame they're going to be able to set it up in, and then just kind of move from there, which is very good because it gives us time to refine processes. Another brother was there was Mr. Terry Hill. And that brother wrote his own book, or as a matter of fact, he's written several books as well, and is self-published through Amazon. And remarkable story, remarkable opportunity to hear this brother's testimony in terms of where he was, what was the precipice for making the decision to actually change, and where that has led him. That brother has been self-promoting his book around the country, and most likely and most notable in the Pacific Northwest. But in the 2 years that he's been out with his book, he sold over 9,000 copies just selling them out of the trunk of his car.
Wow.
And so he's out there grinding and hustling person to person. And you make impact one person at a time. And that's what he's doing.
Wow. So I've sold like music out of the trunk of a car, but never a book.
Right.
Right. I wonder what that's like.
He explained what that's like. It's like going to Walmart and getting permission to stand outside of Walmart and greet people like you're coming in or what have you, offering to sell your books. Going to the county fairs, selling books, walking around the fairgrounds. He's going to supermarkets, Safeways. He's going any place that will invite him to come and speak. He'll stand on the street corner and sell his books. And so whatever it takes, because that's his livelihood. That's how he earns his living, by selling his book. And that gives him the desire to engage with people and help to change the narrative around the struggle in terms of what it means to be formally justice involved. And actually, there was a young man that was there who was, when he read the book, he was being challenged to lose, because he has 4 black belts in some form of martial arts. And the association notified him that if you get into trouble one more time, we're going to strip you of your black belts, because we don't want that representing us.
Gotcha.
And because he got a hold of this book by Mr. Hill. He read that while he was incarcerated, and that changed his life.
Wow.
And he's determined never to go back and never to
Mhm.
lose the things that he's earned and created for himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Impact.
some people can do that. Some people can wrap their mind around the process of change and, make that change. But other people, it's so easy. It's a slippery slope,
Yes.
especially after you've been justice involved.
Right.
When you get out and it's like the system is still against you.
Right.
It's still an uphill battle. It's even
Right.
harder. You have to represent yourself in a certain way.
Sure.
That's self-incriminating and makes it difficult for you to make progress.
Right.
And so a lot of people end up back in the system.
Right,
again.
right. Well, I think sometimes, and it's not for everyone, but for some who are consistently justice involved, and it's not that, in some instances, it's not that the system is against us, it's that we're against ourselves. And so we don't change our mindset. We go back to the same environment that we left, thinking that we've changed, and we may have changed. But once we have been back into that same rut, with the same people, with the same attitudes, the same mindsets, then that draws us back in because we're not strong enough on our own to make that complete shift. And so sometimes we become our own worst enemy by continuing to rely on what we used to know versus what we need to know.
Right. There are some people or some, well, I know when you fill out a job application and they ask the question, have you been convicted of this or have you been convicted of that? Some people do have to mark yes.
Definitely.
And there is employment discrimination for those people.
Sure.
Yeah. But we're not specifically talking about that group.
Right.
Yeah, we specifically talking
Well,
about
it does apply to that or what have you, because people who are going to be employers want to have an idea of who they're employing. And so the thing that I've learned in my journey is that you have to have a certain level of comfort with who you are and the changes you've made in your life to articulate your lived experiences being just as involved and how those experiences changed your life. I'll give you, and this, while this applies, it wasn't necessarily through someone that was just as involved. An employee of ours, actually one of the colleagues that works in your department, had just gotten a position in another department. And I sent him a congratulatory email to say, congratulations on your new assignment and new appointment for this position. And he sent me an email back and he said, I want you to know that you influenced and impacted me in my interview, because during my interview process, I used your techniques and the things you talked about in terms of telling your story and how to do that. And that helped him to get that position or what have you. And so that reaffirmed the whole idea of the impact that we make on individuals, and we don't always know what that means or even get the word back that we impacted someone. And so I was thankful for the opportunity to speak life into his situation so that he can use that as a tool to better himself.
To move forward. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because if you don't tell people what to think, they come up with their own conclusions.
Yes.
Yeah. And then they conclude wrong or they conclude something else that's way off base.
Yes.
And it's like, man, you're misrepresenting my reality here.
Yes.
Yeah. So I got to speak up for myself.
Exactly. Exactly. Because again, it goes back to what my accountability partners were saying this morning. If you don't frame your narrative, someone else will. And so again, learn to tell your story, because that's going to give you not only the impact, but it gives you the access to the spaces where you need to be in, because somebody in that space will need to hear about your journey.
There's so much
unfiltered
healing too that can happen. Personal healing. I know when I had to write my personal story, we talked about this a lot, my personal statement for the military discharge upgrade. And it took at least a year to really get through it, because it was so deeply embedded. Like, not only was that almost 10 years ago, but also it's like, man, the details and the nuances, and then you're writing it out and you remember, I forgot about this little detail, and then you see it on paper and it's like, man, you start to relive it. You start to feel those emotions again. And it's almost like you're opening up the wounds, but now you're opening them so that you can heal them properly, and you can represent them. And then the next time you go over it, It's not just like this deep cavern
Right.
that I fall into.
Yes.
Now, yeah, it's a deep cavern in there, but it's got this covering on it now,
Yeah.
where when I go back over, it doesn't hurt the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of healing that happens with that writing too, I think.
And it's kind of like when you have a duplicate picture, but they're in different frames. They give you different impressions.
Go ahead, filters.
And so, and so what I find is that when a picture is framed by someone, it makes them feel a certain way. But when you frame the picture the way you see it, it's a whole different feeling, different expression. And so that whole framing really is about your expression of your experiences. And so the story that you tell is framed either by you or someone else.
And you can either add value or devalue by the story you tell or the frame that you put around something.
Yes.
I heard a story once about a guy who went on Amazon. He bought 100 items for less than $2 each. And he sent out these 100 items to 100 writers. And he said, write a story about this item. And the writers did it. They sent him the story. And when he posted the item, the $2 item with the story behind it, he would sell the item for 10 or 20 times what he bought for it, because the story that was associated with it made the item so much more valuable to the consumer. And it's like, wow, that frame that you put around this little trinket now, it just increased the value of it. Now I'm willing to pay so much more for it because I know the history of it, I know the context of it is worth more to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, but that also leads us into what we're designing with our platinum hitters, and what value we're adding to the platinum affirmations to make them valuable to other people. How we're able to articulate in a contextual framework what those affirmations mean to us, so that it gives them the opportunity to reframe it for themselves. Because it's one thing when you are given a picture that's already framed, but how about if you're given a frame and told to put the picture in it? Whole different concept. And that's what we will be doing.
Man, so okay. So tell me about how would you go about like advising someone to write their story, knowing that they're going to encounter old feelings that maybe they haven't had for a while, and you're going to feel some things, and you might even be like, for myself, and I have a history of drug use and alcohol, and when I think about those times in the military when I was deeply involved in that, it's easy for me to say, man, I feel that way again. I want to go back to that because that's what I did last time to deal with these emotions. But now I'm sober and I have to deal with them soberly. So how would you advise someone to go through that minefield, essentially, but survive at this time without having to use the negative coping mechanisms necessarily?
Because I'm training myself more and more to go with spirit. Spirit tells me to start with writing what you're comfortable with. Don't necessarily start out writing the hard stuff.
Don't jump in the deep end.
Exactly. Start on the shallow end and work your way in, or what have you, bit by bit.
Yeah.
And so, because those things, writing brings up triggers that will take up mind space, take up energy, and cause you to reflect in manners that are either healthy or unhealthy. And so the thing is, how are you going to use this writing tool as a mechanism of therapy to kind of help rehabilitate your thinking in terms of your old behaviors, and so that you're shifting to something more healthier, so that you can get out the story that needs to be said, or write the story that needs to be written, so that those who need to be impacted by it can get it now. And so it's like I've delayed so many people's journey. I may have even delayed your journey. And so let me begin by first apologizing to you and any other listener that may be hearing this, because I did not tell my story in a timely manner. Because there's someone who needed the tools that I'm using, but because I was afraid to tell my story, they were delayed in getting them, because I was the one destined to impact them. And so it's about that.
Man, that made me think of testimony, sharing your testimony, and then you break that word down. It's the test I'm on and why. When you share that testimony, you're telling other people, this is the test that I've been through, and this is why I went through it.
Right.
And maybe there's somebody else that's going through the same thing or a similar struggle, and now they have some tools they can work with. They have some kind of perspective, because they say you can't solve a problem at the same level it was created. If you have a two-dimensional problem, you can't solve it on a two-dimensional plane. You got to branch out to that third dimension.
Right.
You need a different perspective.
Yes.
Before you can go back in and accurately assess and then, come to some sort of a profitable conclusion.
Yes, indeed. And I think for me in writing, and I think as I'm sitting here processing, I have likely intentionally shied away from writing my story because there's still this level of fear and or trepidation on a subconscious level about how I will be perceived. And if people will, because people know me one way, but will they see me a different way afterwards? And so there becomes, so now I'm, even in my mind thinking about it, I'm filtering what I want to say as opposed to letting what needs to be said be said.
Yeah, the truth will make you free.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
I've become comfortable being in this self-imposed prison.
I can see that.
It's safe. It's safe in there.
I can feel that. I can feel that, even in my own story.
Right.
And to me, it kind of feels like when I come to work, a lot of people don't know.
Right.
A lot of people don't know about the DUI and the military discharge and the divorce and the abortion, and not everybody knows all that.
Right.
Not everybody needs to.
Right, sure.
Right. And until you have the words to express yourself and protect yourself at the same time, it's probably not really safe to share all that, for myself.
Yes.
But I was thinking that you could also, sometimes it's easy to speak your story, and then you could record that, and then maybe that would be a helpful tool for kind of getting the things out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking it is definitely something that I've been doing because it's easier to speak what I want to say than to write what I want to say, because so many other thoughts, the way my mind works, I'm fast in my thinking, slow in my writing, and so if I'm speaking it, so much more can come out without being overly sensitive to what I'm writing, because then I want to stop and think about it in my head. But if I'm talking, I can just go and let it flow to the page. And so I need to do more of it. I've done some, but I need to do more of it. And I think I've danced around critical components or critical areas of my life to come back to it later when I'm more comfortable expressing that in its totality. And so my story is as fragmented as my life. And so I need to put the pieces together to really frame the right picture.
Are you concerned that when you write the story and you see it, that it might change you somehow?
I don't know that it would necessarily, I'm fearful of it changing me because I'm living it. I think that, again, there's that subconscious fear of rejection on some level by those who accept you in this fashion, I accept you in this light, but I cannot accept you in that light.
It makes it so hard even to believe. For me personally, it makes it so hard to accept praise with the mask on, or to accept the fact that somebody says like, oh, I appreciate you, or wow, I love you. It's because you don't know me.
Yes.
And I know you don't know me because I haven't told you everything.
Right.
Or I haven't told you everything, the raw story.
Right.
I kind of gave you this beautiful version of it because I want you to like me.
Wow.
Because I want you to know the end result, not necessarily the mathematics that got me to where I'm at. Yeah. And so even in my personal relationship, I can see how that has negatively impacted my marriage.
Right.
Where it's like, it's hard for me to believe that you love me for myself, because I never really made myself available to be loved like that.
Right.
Which is tough.
Yeah. It is. And I think what makes it tough is to feel worthy of the love that you receive. That's one of the things, what have you, because sometimes I know in my own personal journey, I have craved love, have sought love, have abused love, have neglected love, and I have misappropriated love.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at all the ways in which I have interacted with love, not all of those ways were healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are some things that I am not necessarily proud of in terms of how I've conducted myself. And yet, here I sit, still in a position of being blessed in spite of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's natural for us to want to protect ourselves.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
that mechanism sometimes can become kind of is helpful
Right.
in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
But the longer and longer I hold on to it,
Right.
the less helpful it becomes.
Right.
The less
Mhm.
the less effective it is,
Sure.
because I know the chasm in between
Sure.
where I'm at, where I used to be.
Yeah.
For me,
For sure.
it becomes so heavy that in times where I might take a drive with a coworker, we might have an event in Seattle,
Mhm.
or we might have an event 50 miles away or something like that. And naturally, you're going to come across and start talking about life events,
Right.
how you got to this job, what you did before that.
Right.
And I always find myself venturing into, the military.
Right.
A lot of people always want to ask me about it. Oh, what was it like? What did you do? So on and so
Right.
forth. And honestly, a lot of times I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
But I find that the more I talk about it, the better it gets. And I even become more brave
Right.
about exposing myself, putting myself out there, and letting people do with that information what they will. I mean, a part of me has become a little bit fearless,
Yes.
because this is one of the most vulnerable pieces of myself.
Right.
And when I put it out there and people either accept it well or they don't accept it, maybe they look at me different, maybe they don't come visit my office as often,
Right.
Or maybe that's just my psyche playing tricks on me, saying, oh, this person don't come around as much as they used to, but I find that it's helpful, and it really makes me have to be okay with myself.
Yes.
I have to be okay with myself, because I can't be anybody else. I can't leave my body for any extended period of time. And I can't do that and work.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge.
Right. Yeah. And I equate those conversations at times to, it's say after the storm comes the sun. And so there's going to be some clearing. If we look at the conversations that we have, whether they're comfortable conversations or uncomfortable conversations, it's like the conversation itself is a rainstorm. It's just pouring rain. I'm just kind of I'm just dumping. And so, but once you're done with that outpour, there's a clearing that lets you see beyond what was there, or beyond the storm, or outside of the storm, so to speak. And so let's look at conversations as rain. And so we're raining down upon another individual, or have showering them with our experiences, because they've asked for the experience. Because sometimes we ask for rain because we're in a dry spell. And so that rain refreshes us and brings life to us. And now it's up to us to either receive that rain or to expel that rain. Take what we need sometimes, and then let the rest go. I
mean, that's what the soil does.
Yes.
The soil absorbs the water that it can, and then the rest, you see, it runs off.
Right.
And then it takes that soil, mix it with the nutrients, mix it with the water, and use it to feed the flowers.
Exactly.
So as I'm telling people about the negative things in my past, I have to be intentional about also sharing the benefits that I have from that, and allow myself to accept that there are good things that happen because of the bad things that happen.
Right.
There are good things that only could happen because the bad thing happened. Like, I have 2 sons now that would not be here if I hadn't left a previous relationship,
Right.
And these guys are, they're your kids,
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
it's hard to be sad,
Mhm.
or it's hard to be sad about the rain and the mud
Right.
while I'm looking at the flowers and the sun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And there's a purpose for each, And the thing about it is to be comfortable where you are. Because being in the mud is not necessarily a bad thing as long as you're not stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because there is a healthiness, like because being raised in Louisiana, we played in the mud. Mud was like a staple in our community. Everybody, all the kids played in the mud, and we had the best times. And it's like you're becoming one with your environment, and so the thing about the mud is that you don't take it everywhere you go. You don't track it into every space. And so we had to wash off before we went into the house. So even though there are things that we're in, we can't take it every place we go.
Yeah, it's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool. I can pull it out. I can use it. Dust that off. I can help somebody else.
Yeah.
I can loan you that tool that I have, and you can get yourself cleaned up and offer, a ray of sunshine, some hope to somebody else. It's not over. A lot of times, when I'm in it, you can feel like it's over. It's done.
Yes.
This is it.
Exactly.
Until you see somebody on the other side. And it's like, oh, there's existence over there.
Right.
It's not just dark.
Yeah. Exactly. And but that requires us to be intentional about what we see, and to not only acknowledge what we see, but to do something meaningful in that space. And we hear the term wasted space. And so sometimes we have wasted space in our lives because we haven't intentionally done something with that amount of time that was allotted to us in that space. And so if there is any form of encouragement, it is to maximize the opportunities that are presented to you in the space that you have. Make the best of it. Move forward. Absolutely. As a platinum hitter.
That's right. Yeah. And we got really deep really fast. And that was wow, talk about not jumping in the deep end.
Yeah.
But no need to apologize to me. I actually came in here on the docket. It's written down for me to thank you for helping me.
What?
Yeah, for helping me.
In what ways have I helped you?
Absolutely. Well, look, because I procrastinate as well. And I procrastinated on telling my story as well because, like I said, of the pain involved with conjuring up those memories.
Yes.
But working on platinum hitters in the business, it forces me to deal with those things because I know that I need to get them out of the way so that I can be fully present for the future. I realize that I've been living in the past and walking forward, looking backward, running into stuff, hitting walls, just not being as effective as I could be, not really giving my full self.
Sure.
But when you say, when you come to me and you're like, oh man, I have this idea, and it's like, let's flesh this out. And you sent me the affirmations and the outline for the book and everything like that. And they were like short prompts to say, begin writing, and you gave me, always encouraging steps, small tweaks to make along the way. And it was those small steps that I needed. It was the small steps that really prompt me where it's like, okay, it's not that bad, one foot in front of the other. It's not that bad. It's not as scary as you think. And it started getting me thinking in that future mindset. And when I look at the future, I'm not really worried about the past. Sure. I'm like, man, I'm in such a good place right now. There's so many opportunities ahead of me. I'm not really tripping off the past anymore. Sure. Like it's the past and I'm here. So it's not really much you can say to me because I'm here. You ain't tricking if you got it, right?
Right.
So it's like I might have a mask on. You might not know everything about me, but first of all, you don't need to know everything.
Right.
And second of all, I made it out. So I'm better for it, obviously.
Yes.
Right? Despite what anybody thinks about the past, you can't argue where I'm at right now, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to thank you for that. And also just the patience. The most important thing with growth, development, everything that we talk about, the most important thing with it is time.
Yes.
And you never, I don't know how long ago you sent me the prompts or you sent me a book and I say, oh yeah, I'm gonna work on this, I'm gonna work on that. And I sit on it for a week or 2 weeks might go by. You never gave me a hard time about it. Maybe like a gentle reminder, or maybe you pick up and you do something on it. I see like, oh man, I promised Rob I was gonna move on that. I ain't move on that yet, man. And so it was just like, but you never condemned me for not moving forward on anything. And so I had to thank you. And I've been into my emails with like, thank you. Because when we got the Platinum Hitter video together, it's like, man, you could have done this 5 years ago for this. You could have done that 10 years ago for this. You could have, and the thing that I regret the most is not the mistakes that I made, but the time it took to make the mistake. If you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm not really concerned that I know the intro video, I know the podcast. It's not exactly where we want it to be. There's mistakes in it. It's imperfect, but I think that done is better than perfect at this point. You know what I mean? And you helped get me to done. And I was worried about being perfect because I want to present a perfect version of myself because of the negative things in my past. I'm so wrapped up in being perfect that I didn't do anything. I was so wrapped up in being everything that I ended up being nothing. Right. So it's like, man, and you just always encourage me and always help me to move forward. And so I intentionally wanted to thank you for that. And it's you haven't held me back none. So no need to apologize to me. You haven't held me back any. You pushed me forward. You know what I mean? Or if you thought you held me back, nah man, I'm way more powerful than I used to be. I'm way more powerful today than I was a week ago. You know what I mean? It's making me evolve. It's making me change, and it's making me better overall. Not in a myopic sense, not in one direction. It's an overall expansion. It's from a single point, a single seed, and it's just branching out in every direction, north, south, east, west, back and forth, 3 dimensions. It's going, and it's growing, and it's taking over. It's beautiful.
I appreciate you in that, and because what that really and truly describes. So you are the prototype. You are the prototype for Platinum Hitters. Someone who is looking to or have that desire to be that best version of themselves, but struggle getting there. And sometimes through the mentoring of Platinum Hitters, that's where we get, and that's what we become. And so you are, for lack of better terminology, a poster child for Platinum Hitters, because that's the reason why we're doing this work, is to help individuals reach levels of performance that they are satisfied with in their lives, and to become the best at that thing. And so being the best, one of our mottos, one of our slogans is, being the best is more than who you are. It's what you do.
Yeah. I like it. It's what you do. It's more than who you are. It's what you do.
Yes. Exactly. And so this whole idea of establishing a framework for others to become Platinum Hitters, imagine what it's going to be like in 6 months or 1 year when there are hundreds, thousands of Platinum Hitters out there that are influencing other people to become Platinum Hitters. And so when we look at rolling out the tweets, rolling out the blog, and rolling out the Patreon, rolling out the merchandise, rolling out all of these different components of what makes Platinum Hitters, and how to integrate that into the back porch, the consulting, the training, the workshops, the seminars, and what those things look like, and culminate that at the end of any given year with a recognition ceremony for Platinum families, Platinum kids, Platinum businesses, Platinum enterprises. So those individual businesses and opportunities that have also aspired to be the best that they can be in their chosen field, and bring those individuals together and recognize them in the form of a ceremony that says, I am a Platinum Hitter.
Definitely. Give them something to celebrate.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to have a, what you consider a negative past or what anybody considers a negative past. It's not even about the past.
Right.
It's about where you want to be in the future and where you're at now and how you're going to get there.
Yes.
And so even if, I think, even if you come from less fortunate circumstances, you can still be the best version of yourself.
Oh, yeah?
Absolutely.
That's without a doubt. And it goes without saying, because I think that as we begin to continue to evolve in our personal desires to want to grow other people, it's like there's an old adage that states, the more people you help get what they want, the quicker you'll get what you want. And so our goal is to help everyone that has a desire to be helped. But while we're helping others, we're also helping ourselves.
Inevitably.
No doubt.
Yeah. So with that, man, so the web page is live.
Yes.
The web page is live. What's the website?
www.backporchtc.com and www.platinumhitter.com.
Awesome. So I'm gonna make sure I get on there and check that out today, because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it live yet.
I'm trying to pull up a web page that doesn't want to be pulled up so that you can actually see it.
Yeah.
See what it is.
Well, while you pull that up, I got a question for you. And this is actually what I wanted to come in and talk about. So it's very timely that this is kind of just where the conversation led us. So we were talking about moving away from the old things and kind of getting into environments where you can grow and develop. And part of that is surrounding yourself with people that challenge you, but not only challenge you, but help you change for the better, into the better person that you want to be. So I got a buddy, and I personally thought that he was going to be the poster child for Platinum Hitters.
Sure.
That's just what I thought. But I noticed that, he challenges me, but he doesn't help me change. I noticed that he's trying to solve two-dimensional problems on a two-dimensional field. He's not moving into that third dimension to be able to have that higher perspective to change his problems. And as the effect that it's having on our relationship is such that as I'm moving forward, or I see myself moving forward and progressing, I see him staying in the same place. And when we get together, even though we are intentional about the same activities, exercising, practicing writing, his thought patterns are based on old habits. And he still wants to do the old habits along with the progress forward. But the problem is that the old habits, they don't mix. They don't, the old way of doing things don't mix with the solutions that we want. And so it's diluting our efforts in a sense to move forward. And so a while ago, I had to let him know, our relationship is changing, man, and I'm heading in this direction, and I don't really see you heading in that direction. So I wasn't trying to cut off the friendship, but at the same time saying that, I'm on a different route. So,
and if I may be have some input there in terms of that, because sometimes, especially for those that we are closest with, we are not always the best person to mentor them to their next level of greatness. And so you may need to introduce him to another platinum hitter that could get him there, because there's such a great familiarity with you as a friend, and that may go back years, that his hearing is limited to what he knows, not by what he sees. And so when we talk about vision, the vision could be to, who can I introduce you to that will get you to that next level? Because we've gone as far as we can go. So now I need to pass the baton over to someone else who can help you see things from a different vantage point to give him that third dimension.
So talk a little bit about that. How about what you know versus what you see?
Because it's like again, when I talk about in terms of adages, adages are saying or something that rings true to some capacity. You say, if you don't know much, you can't do much, and if you know more, you'll do more. But the whole premise is that when we are working with people that are close to us, it's like there are people in your life that will support you in doing certain things, and there are certain other things that they won't support you in. Like, for instance, if somebody knows Dietrich is always starting a new business, and they say, okay, well, man, you started 5 businesses last year and 3 businesses this year, and because they know you, they're basing their decisions on what their history is with you. You can talk to a stranger about that very same idea, same concept, and you guys can go off and make millions together because they're not basing their decision on your past history. And so that's that premise in that. And so the thing that you don't know can sometimes make you versus the thing that you do.
How can you be, and that's where I was going with that is, I know it's not right to just necessarily just leave him, or to just leave him alone.
Right.
Because, people might come to resent you from that and you could lose a friend or something like that. But like you said, it could be somebody close to you. It could be family, and you might not always have the option of necessarily leaving them. You have a family function and you guys in the same room, and so so my question was going to be, how do you incorporate people into your circle? How do you bring platinum hitters into your circle? How do you find other people that you look up to that might not necessarily be a platinum hitter and engage them with the intent to bring them into your circle to make you better, but to also help your person out without seeming like you're just trying to use them?
Well, you make an invitation, and because some people accept the invitation and some don't. Some people receive the invitation but let it sit. Some people accept the invitation and come. And so there are some that are going to come along with you and some that are going to sit back and watch you go. Because not everyone is meant to go on your journey with you. You got to, just because you love them doesn't mean that that's where they are emotionally and mentally and prepared for that next step that you're taking. Because there are some people whom you were close with 5 years ago who say, hey man, let's do XYZ together. But because of where you were, you said, oh yeah, that's a good idea, but you stayed put. You didn't move. And they went off and did their thing. You're still friends, but you went off and did your thing. This could be a similar type of situation where you need to go off and do your thing. And when they see you or observe you being successful in this, that, or the other, then they can come along because they're just not there at this moment. It doesn't mean that they won't always be there, but sometimes you circle back around and connect with them later. And then bring them up because they're in a different mindset at that point.
That could be the difference between someone leading themselves and someone following you because they see the progress that you're on, the progress that you're making.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm with. What is probably, if there's a pressing, matter of fact, I'll ask you a question that I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to work with students now. And upstairs on the 4th floor, there's a board. And it makes this statement that it's in the form of, it's a statement, but it's also a question. Before I die, I want to, and then you fill in the blank. Before you die, you want to what?
Oh, I definitely want to do a lot of things. That's a deep question. I definitely want to leave a legacy. I know that's my number one, is leaving a legacy for my family. Definitely want to, I'll give you my big end game. My end game is a family estate, family estate in the United States somewhere. I thought about Kansas because it's in the middle, but a big, not a big, like a compound, if you will, where we have the family history and maybe there's a family crest and everybody, maybe not everybody, but people in my lineage, before me, after me, because I think I have 50 something cousins. My grandparents had 11 children. They're all still alive, and each of them have several kids, at least 3. I think I have 53 cousins and 2 siblings, and so there's a lot of us. But I notice a lack of unity and a lack of a continuity in the story that we have. Like I'm not in contact with any of them. We're connected on Facebook, but I'm not on Facebook, and they don't text me anything. So I want to establish a family sort of a place on earth where the family's legacy is, right? And from that hub, I wanted to have a family member who lives at the compound, who manages the compound, keeps the historical records of our family, and who also manages the family kind of business, because I want my family to own properties, and I want my family to be wealthy and influential without necessarily having to be confounded to the everyday workings of whatever's going on in our society. I don't want them to have to go $100,000 into debt trying to get a college education. We should be able, as a family of 60 members, to pool our resources together and put everybody through college without us having to go into debt. Or if you want to buy a house, you shouldn't have to necessarily rely on a bank to say, oh, your credit score is good enough, you got good enough income, so on and so forth. You should be able to go to your family foundation and have something worked out, or we already have a property in the works, or we have some kind of an education and training where we're responsible for not only teaching our family history, but also our ancestry. That's just separate from the larger narrative that whatever public education is going to give you. I know growing up, I learned one thing. When I got on my own, I did my own research. I learned other things. I put them together. I can surmise the truth, essentially, of what happened. But it's that process. It didn't have to take me all that. It could have been in one spot. We could have figured this out already. We could have had a foundation. I don't have to be $500,000 in debt today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not necessary. There's so many of us, but we're not utilizing all of the capacity and the resources. We're not at full strength because we're divided. What I want to do, I want to bring us all together. That's what I want to do before I die.
And I have a simple process that we use for my family in terms of being able to navigate that space, because we've thought about certain things and creating an endowment for that educational piece and all of that. And the thing is to determine how much for the endowment piece or what have you. Look at the rules and regulations in terms of how much of skin in the game you have to have in order to establish the endowment. And then what's the process you're going to do to, again, create it as a nonprofit per se, so that not just your family, but other families can donate to it for that educational component in place, so that you can have those residual funds coming in on a consistent basis to be able to provide for those educational needs. But one of the things we've done as a family is that, and we've gotten the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, everyone involved, and each of us, hundreds of us, put $15 a month, something that small, $15 a month into this pot. And from this pot, we buy property. We lease these properties out. We hold and retain these properties or what have you. So everyone gets to have an input in how this legacy is being built and established. And it's voluntary. You can opt in or opt out or what have you. But if you're going to opt in and you want to be one of the recipients, let's say, of the scholarship, then you write a letter, or should I say a narrative, why education is important to you and what you intend to do with it. Because now you have a responsibility to come back to the family and contribute this expertise or that expertise to the continual growth of the legacy of the family. And so that's what we're generally doing in terms of our family and what we're looking to establish in terms of a long-term financial component for family sustainability. And so we have to look at what works for you, because what it works for you will not necessarily work for someone else, and realize that not everyone is going to be kind of amenable to the slow growth that is going to take. $15 a month is not a lot, but over time it grows to be quite a bit. And then people change because of money. And so who are going to be involved in this process or what have you, and always make sure that there are 2 people, 2 secretaries, 2 treasurers, so there's always a checks and balances about who's, not so much that you're kind of monitoring people, but yes, you're monitoring people to make sure that your views and your ideologies aren't changing and shifting. because of the amount that you see.
We're not under any false impressions.
Right.
We're all human,
Mhm.
you know.
Yes,
Yeah, you start seeing them
Mhm.
dollar signs, and your mind starts
Yes.
working different.
for sure. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, the sign. So,
Mhm.
what made you think about the sign?
It's just this is that season for it. This is that
Mhm.
time. This is that time, and for me, signs are guideposts to a travel journey.
Mhm.
And so, if I don't pay attention to the signs, I'm either going to run off the road, make a mistake, or have an accident along the way.
Mm.
And so, if I pay attention to the signs, then I can make adjustments and augment my path based on what I see. So signs are guide-like, like your guide-like to the journey. So yes,
What do you want to do before you die?
it's to live up to my greatest potential.
Mm.
That's what I want. And if I'm living up to my greatest potential, being in front of thousands, that's on the way. Because I'm now following that vision. I'm following the signs toward that vision. And I'm doing the things that are necessary to get me there. So living to my fullest potential.
Do you think, when you say thousands, my mind goes to 2,000. Are you thinking
I'm looking at
hundreds?
arenas. I'm looking at 40, 50,000. Because I'm looking at over this sea of people, and I can't count as many as it makes. So it's
Mhm.
lots. It's more than 2,000 people. Even though 2,000 is a great start.
2,000 is
That's
a
great.
lot. Right.
That's a great start.
Okay.
But it's more than that.
Yeah.
My vision is bigger than that. Because the work I'm doing is bigger than that. The work we're doing right now with Platinum Hitters is bigger than that.
See, my vision was too small. I was like 2,000. Yeah, Rob, let's do it.
No, man, that's not it. That's not it. It's much bigger than that.
You're trying to fill the Superdome.
Yeah, we're going to fill arenas with what we're doing.
You're trying to fill the Superdome.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I see you. Madison Square Garden.
Exactly.
That's like the,
That's the
the
brass
big
ring.
league.
That's
Exactly.
the brass ring. So yeah,
Exactly.
we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Yes. That's where we're looking to go, man. Platinum Hitters is on the way. And so I'm going to encourage people to look for the Platinum Podcast, the Platinum Hitter Way, because the Platinum Way is really about a framework for establishing a pattern of behaviors that help you to optimize every opportunity before you.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that you become opportunistic and you take advantage of the opportunities that are before you. Because, again, being the best is more than who you are. It's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing the right thing becomes paramount to becoming a platinum hitter.
Yeah, so that's great. That's a good episode. And let's just cut it right here. This has been another episode of the Platinum Cafe. I hope you all enjoyed it. Check us out on backporchtc.com and platinumhitter.com. And until next time, we'll see you guys when we see you guys.